Star Trek 57, M23, take 2.
Star Trek Podcast.
The Ba'ul culled my people for centuries. My parents died at their hands. Now I sit across from them at the Kaminar Council. I still feel rage.
But you seem so balanced. So calm.
We're both justified in our anger. Allowing it to be our focus, however, only prevents us from achieving those things which serve the greater good. It is a struggle, yes. But a worthy one.
Every poop is potentially a no wiper. It's up to you.
It's your call.
Yeah, it's your call, right?
Okay, so
buttons.
So, before we start the podcast proper.
Uh-oh. Are we in trouble?
No.
Are you about to give us a dressing down?
No. But I do want to address something.
Uh-oh, he is.
Something that I have noticed. I've noticed over the last few weeks. I presume it's been going on since the beginning of the season. And I just want to address this issue, this thing I noticed, this thing that I observed. Regarding the music at the end credits of Discovery in season 4. Mm-hmm. Because to me, it sounds like they've done sort of a Last of the Mohicans kind of riff on it. And so I've got a clip here from it. I want you to let me know what you think, if I'm on the right track here, that there's something. At first I was thinking, I was like, this is making me think of Outlander. What is this making me think of? And it kind of zeroed in on a Last of the Mohican style thing. So just listen. It starts first with the little piano.
This has always
bits.
been there.
Yeah. And then, a little dingly, And then you say, okay, there's the main Discovery theme in there. It's like, doom, with your doongs and your dings.
See, I haven't listened beyond past this part before.
Right.
Yeah, we're listening.
Weird,
It gets jaunty. See how it's doing those like half steps up?
It's like talking about like the Lord of the Forest defeats the Master of Time in a battle of the universe that only ends when the goddess of Sheba rises from the earth and makes her way up to heaven and decides, you live, you do not die, but you do not live, which is worse.
But that's jaunty, isn't it? That's like a jaunty, I don't know what to put on it other than sort of a colonial. I'm only saying that because I think because of the Last of the Mohicans, it's got a little bit of that riff.
It does have
there.
that, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
It's got because it's got that sound of that era of time. Like, well, Lord of the Mohicans. Okay.
You've created a new franchise possibility because, by the way, I was reading the other day that Tolkien, in his depiction of the Rohan, the moves that the Rohan horse riders are doing, like the circling around and stuff, those are actually taken from, I think, Lakota or some sort of thing, because Tolkien was really into reading, he had a different term for it, but stories about Native Americans.
Okay, yeah.
He was fascinated with their cultures and things, so it's perhaps a less expected contribution to the Lord of the Rings mythos is various things that he pulled in from Native American
That's
lore.
interesting because, so that's probably what it is. Where I was gonna say, like, so the Last of the Mohicans, they play that sort of thing at the end, but then sometimes you'll watch these old fantasies type series and it'll have a similar sounding sort of, thing, and maybe that's the influence coming from that.
I don't
somehow,
know. Just they do such good work with the music on the show. Although there are there's a lot of motifs that they pull in, not only from Star Trek movies, which is great, but for example, in this episode, I noticed there's a part that sounds very Hans Zimmerman kind of like hard to describe. Very synth, powerful, like throbbing synth.
Throbbing synth.
Yeah, classic throbbing synth.
Throbbing synth.
All right, so
You got your throbbing synth.
I just wanted to get that out
That's
of the
what you
way.
want a synth to do.
That's what you want a synth to do.
So with that taken care of, with that observation noted and put out into the world, we can move on to announcing that It's Got Star Trek. It is a podcast. It is a podcast about Star Trek. That is the thing it has.
And
this
it's got
podcast.
it.
This is
It has
episode,
it.
I want to say 109.
This is episode
Is it
109. We did Discovery Season 4,
108?
Episode 6.
Maybe it's 108.
It's called Stormy Weather.
I think last week was
Stormy
one.
Oh
weather.
yeah, last week was 108. So this is definitely 109.
Hey.
And we will be discussing Star Trek Discovery Season 4, Episode 6.
I'm doing a wacky morning zoo voice.
Directed by Jonathan Frakes.
It's a morning zoo. It's wacky. On your way to the what work, folks.
The what work?
The wet works, folks.
Wet work.
That's where you work at the wet work. No, that's Friday evening is the wet works, not
Oh.
Monday morning. You go to the wet works.
But
and,
yes.
and you get in the traffic and you watch the traffic. The traffic's bad out there today. The traffic's bad out there today, folks. All the lights are turning red. Watch out.
Traffic and weather together on the 8th.
On the 8th, right.
On the 8th. Yes.
It's also irrelevant now.
Jonathan Frakes directed this episode.
Totally.
And you can tell because it's tense and taut and crisp. Crisp and delicious.
Taut.
In all ways, except for maybe that slow motion scene of Burnham walking down the hallway, which I had nothing against. I just I was like, I don't know.
Wait, which part? I don't even know what you're talking about.
I've jumped ahead, of course, but towards the end of the episode, there's a scene where Burnham is in her, EV suit or whatever,
Is it like when it's all like
and she's all walking and the sparks are flying and she's like walking to the
life
bridge.
support failure is imminent?
Oh, okay.
And she's getting ready and she's doing that. I don't know. It just wasn't that dramatically interesting to me because everything else was all frenetically paced. It's like, all right, let's do some slow motion walking with some powerful music going around. But the rest of it worked for me. I really enjoyed this episode. I've been enjoying most of these episodes to one degree or another. I don't know what you all thought about it.
Yeah, this is a good one.
I thought it was interesting. I thought it was
a good.
It was what? Sorry, go ahead.
It was a good one.
Yeah, I was
just repeating that.
Yeah, I thought it was an interesting episode because it wasn't like they weren't fighting against anyone. They were just trying to come to terms with
solve a problem.
It was
Yeah,
like a
solve a
classic
problem. Yeah.
Star Trek.
Yeah.
Star Trek.
They're getting
episode.
squished.
Right.
The ship's going to get squished by
Yeah,
some
Trapped
vapor
in,
zone.
trapped in subspace.
Yeah, that's cool. It's fun. What was it last week? What didn't you send some link that someone was saying it looked Cthulhu-y? What's that guy's name?
Cthulhu?
No, what's that Cthulhu guy? You know what I'm talking about. Lovecraft. Yeah, wasn't somebody saying it was like looked
Lovecraftian?
Yeah, but like I didn't see anything.
No, I didn't.
I don't think I sent you any such link.
Someone said I saw a link to the trailer last week of this week. Maybe you sent me a link in Reddit or something, and like one of the comments might have said something like that.
Yeah.
And I didn't. And
Reddit comments say all sorts of weird shit.
yeah, I didn't really see that. When I read that, I was like, "What are there going to be fucking crazy tentacle monsters and like giant like space? Maybe there still will be because they're talking about like shit's coming from the other side of the galaxy. Maybe there's giant Cthulhu's out there.
You can definitely apply some Lovecraftian stuff to where they're going, but I didn't see anything explicitly Lovecraftian.
Yeah, I don't generally
Maybe-
associate Lovecraft with like voids.
You know,
Yeah, right.
you're right. But you know what? Maybe that one part where the dot got all eaten and they're like, it's screaming. Maybe that was kind of
that was fucked up.
that was weird. That was unnecessarily
They're
fucked
like,
up.
and they didn't say it's screaming. It actually somehow is worse. That they're like, it sounds like it's screaming.
Yeah, right. It's like we don't know what kind of
Somehow
pain
that's
it's going
all
through.
more horrifying.
That was pretty rough.
Burnham's like, turn it off.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Not like put it out of its misery. Just turn off the screen. I don't want to hear. I don't want to hear it scream.
Yeah, and it's already kind of a bummer because the short treks, we already know that dots are lovable.
They
apparently.
are. They're so lovable and
But
cuddly.
I mean, technically they
they want to
don't.
protect the ship against the tardigrade.
Yeah.
in that one short trek.
So are we to
Ephraim and Dot.
Are we to believe that tardigrades have what's the name of those fucking things in TNG that Data fought for? Those little fly bots?
Oh yeah, those are the exocomps.
Exocomps.
Oh, right.
Exocomps.
Which sounds like some horrifying 1980s corporate product.
There was one on
We're like
Lower
a-
Decks.
There was one on Lower Decks. So the thing is, the exocomp was deemed sentient, right? So are dots deemed sentient?
Doesn't seem to be.
They don't seem to be. But then there's that whole short trek about Dot and the tardigrade becoming like, lovers or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, it was a. I think you may have slightly misinterpreted that plot.
Well, they took on life together after that point.
I mean, they took on.
And it was screaming.
And it was screaming.
It sounded like it was
We're gonna
screaming.
take on life together.
Yeah.
You mean like that?
Yeah, together. Like they
I
take
don't
on,
think they were lovers.
Like
I like that interpretation.
if your partner's taking on life together, aren't you basically lovers?
No, it's an option.
That's how it works, right?
No, I think.
You're telling me it doesn't work like that?
I think it's that is one.
Who's been lying to me?
TV.
Who's been
television.
lying to
It's been
me?
television. Dan.
Everyone.
Have I been watching too much television?
Everyone lies.
Is my whole reality based on television?
I don't think so.
And those people go on to write TV, so television is just an echo chamber of nonsense.
It is. It's kind of like how when
Like made up idealisms.
like people,
idealisms.
Like people who say, there's people who say it's illegal to drive with the dome light on in your car. Now, it is not illegal to drive with a dome light in your car. I don't think there's a single state in the United States, I don't know how it is overseas, but it is not illegal to drive with the dome light on in your car. However, in the 90s, 50s, and 60s, parents started telling their kids that because they didn't want to have the fucking light on while they were driving because it is obnoxious. And then what happens is those parents, those kids were told that by their parents, and they grew up and they had their own kids, and they believed it.
Yeah.
And so they told their own kids, and then their own kids believed it, and then that's how culture is formed.
It's a cycle of bad parenting that starts in the mid 20th century.
Whole religions
filters down
are
to-
started through the same process. Aggravated parents. The other thing is the whole thing about you shouldn't go swimming until like a half hour after you eat.
Oh yeah, that's
That's totally
bullshit.
made up,
Yeah.
and they can't trace it exactly, but they said that's first started around like the early 1900s. And they think that's also, you can time that's associated with when people started more regularly bathing for pleasure,
Right.
because it wasn't a common activity to bathe for pleasure in most places. But then you started having swimming pools and going
Movie
to the oceans
stars.
and stuff. Yeah, bubbling crude. And but anyway, all of that relates to Star Trek.
Well, this may be less treacherous, and this also relates to Star Trek. But in TV, in movies and stuff, when they put the lighter under the fire system, the fire sprinkler system in the office building, because
To
they
start
want
the sprinklers?
to start the sprinklers in the entire building, because
Yeah.
they want to make the building everyone leave, so they put a lighter up to next to the sprinkler, and the entire
it only starts that one sprinkler, right?
it only if that I think there has to, I don't even know if a lighter is enough to
It might
flip
not be.
it might be not be enough to flip it. I don't know how that works, but I know
It'll burn your thumb before it melts. the
yeah, but
thing.
I know that they don't start all of them and ruin all the fucking computers. I doubt insurance would pay for that. I'm pretty sure insurance would be like, can't we figure something else out? I don't have to pay for all these fucking
That's
computers.
a lot of water damage.
Yeah, but I bet some factories have them though. Like if the whole factory goes up at once or something.
Fireworks factory.
I don't think they
fireworks factories probably
Seems
have
like
them.
factories don't seem to bother with safety.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
Well, they're actually, it's true. It's known that there's industrial softwares that they use, like the software for their industrial devices, very specialized machinery.
It's all programmed in Fortran and COBOL.
They're low on security. Like if it's apparently easier to like
hijack the robots and build your own super cars or something.
Yeah,
Super
exactly.
monsters,
Yeah.
like robot monsters that take over the world.
That's how Pacific Rim happened in
Yeah.
Voltron.
Oh no!
But no, it's true. They don't keep.
It's true, but it's true. It's true.
They
That's
don't.
how
Keep.
Voltron started.
They don't keep up a lot with their security updates. They're very poor with keeping up with security updates. Generally speaking, maybe that's gotten better.
That's troubling.
What do you think the security is
I'm in
like on
trouble.
the U.S.S. Discovery 1031A?
It seems pretty solid.
They probably don't let some random oil tycoon from the 1900s come and wander on the bridge and start yelling at you about wanting a hamburger or
The
something.
neutral zone.
The
That's a
security
great
chief
episode.
is not a main character on Discovery.
yeah, that's a good point.
It was there was once a minor character security chief.
It was a minor. What did they mine? They were security of a mining colony.
You
least,
mine the depths of humor.
At least
Oh,
a less prominent
that
character,
cut
but-
deep, man.
But not anymore.
Well, I bring it up partly because slightly. I mean, to me, it's slightly amusing. I mean, I don't want to begrudge people their particular complaints. However, there are some people on the internet with a capital I that are continuously confused as to why Cleveland Booker would be allowed on the bridge. And no doubt
He's
after
having
this
sex with
episode,
the captain.
well, yeah, I know, right? Well, and no doubt after this episode, we'll hear people say like, "I don't understand why Gray was allowed on the bridge." I mean, the captain asked for Gray to be on the bridge, but Gray barges in at one point and says, "I have to tell you something." And
Do you think Gray took a little longer than he needed to explaining what was wrong? Because he started with the history of like this Trill game. He's like, we don't need the history, your life story here. you know?
While I did really enjoy this episode,
Data-esque.
there are a few expository parts.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
Because we just heard Gray explain this. The audience knows this. And now Gray is explaining it to Burnham as you know, but the audience already knows this. I think there may have been a more elegant way to
but ever
not
since,
double up the exposition.
But Data's sort of paved the way to make that okay. So we can't really complain about that in Star Trek.
Yeah, no, I can't disagree with it. It's just, even with Data though,
We can't use it as a reason to say that, oh, well, TNG was better than Discovery because TNG didn't have this. Yes, they did have those things.
Oh no,
Like-
they
Right.
and they had the aforementioned neutral zone. In the episode, the neutral zone, the 1980s people who were just allowed to hang out in Deanna Troy's room and get access, unrestricted access, unrestricted and unsupervised access to her officer bridge officer level security clearance.
Right. Now, I'm not making any overt comments about which was the better Star Trek show because I think that's a weird question to even think about. But
It's a
anyway,
subjective
but it's just
thing,
the point is that a lot of times people like to say, well, Discovery sucks because of this, and this. In old Trek, they would have never done this, and this, you know?
And it's
like,
the same thing when TNG came out. That was what people said.
Yeah.
And when Deep Space Nine came out, it's always going to be the same thing.
There's a lot of haters out there.
There are a lot of haters.
Haters are going to hate.
yeah,
And it's-
haters are
and
going to hate.
Part of what's unfortunate about it is it's like, it goes without saying that you are going to have different levels of enjoyment and attachment to different television programs.
Yeah.
Even within the same universe.
And it tends to coincide with like when you were growing up.
That's part of it, is you lay down certain neural pathways connected to nostalgia and stuff like that. But even if you like a certain form of storytelling that maybe is more slower paced or just designed in a slightly different way, that's fine. That's totally cool. The only problem I have is then when people go out of their fucking way to rag on shit to the people who like it.
Yeah.
And-
yeah, I don't know what they're getting out of that.
So a good-
makes it sound insecure. They feel insecure about the fact they don't like it. They're like, maybe I should be liking it or
Yeah.
something, but I don't know, so I feel insecure, so I have to bring it down for everybody else. So I can be sure that I don't
Why
like
do these
it.
guys
And it's
like
just patronizing too, and it's clearly trolling too. Because here's an example: when you look at the Star Trek ecosystem, there's lots of places. There's Twitter and Facebook and Reddit and the various bulletin boards.
I bet it's
and
even
stuff,
on Pinterest.
Discords, and stuff like
Pinterest.
that.
Pinterest?
Pinterest.
But on Reddit, for example, you have the main Star Trek subreddit. /r/Star Trek. That's all Star Trek. Now, when people post stuff there and they want to rag on whatever they want to rag on, Discovery or Picard or whatever they want to complain about.
SJWs.
Yeah, those fucking SJWs.
Oftentimes those
Are you for real, bro?
Oftentimes I find those trolly and aggravating, but at least there's the context that it's like, okay, this is the general Trek thing. It can be annoying if somebody's you're just like, why are you spending all this time writing screeds against a show that you clearly keep watching, even though you see it. But what I find more aggravating and upsetting is when you go to the Discovery, like the Star Trek Discovery subreddit, because it's like, yeah, it's not that you can't critique Discovery in the Star Trek Discovery subreddit, but it's sort of intended to be like, here's where the fans of the show hang out. Here's where Star Trek Enterprise subreddit, that's where they hang out. And there's the Deep Space Nine Reddit, and they do their own things. But in general, you presume that most people there are fans. They might have arguments over a specific character or a specific episode, which is the best, which is the worst. But to then go into the you see it specifically in the Star Trek Discovery subreddit where people are just like, this show sucks. I don't know why you guys watch this. And people are like, well, why the fuck are you in this subreddit? You don't have to be here.
They're just trying to pick at the people that like the show.
Yeah,
and,
right.
Start a fight. And
That's true. And on the other side of it, it reminded me, sometimes like I'll look on the internet. It's like, is this video game worth buying or whatever? Should I buy this game or whatever? And it'll take me to the Reddit subreddit about that game. And someone's asking the Reddit about, Super Dudular Brothers, and they're in the Super Dudular Brothers subreddit, and they're like, should I buy this game? And they're all, of course, like, yes, of course you should buy this game. It's like, that's not where you ask that question. You go to like the R video games or R should I buy this game?
/r/heroin, and you're like, should I try heroin? And everyone's like,
Yeah, it's the best. It's the best.
It's really, really great.
Yeah, so it's like I'm not interested. It's like I would have a
That's
use
why
for
there's a subreddit for it.
It's like you ask these subreddits certain things and other things like, and just like that, you wouldn't want someone who's in Discovery who's just trolling Discovery unless they're bored and they actually just like want to be annoying to people. Like they don't actually like Discovery. They just want to fuck with people.
Well, and I think an example is like in this
just hate people.
Yeah, people are obnoxious.
They're the worst.
In this episode, we get to see, we get a nice independent part for Gray in that Gray is doing something independent of Adira's storyline, right? And I thought I enjoyed this, seeing Gray and learning more about Gray and the interactions with Gray in this episode a little bit more than previous episodes, partly because in the previous episodes it served the purpose for the story. I thought the content and the goal of the story was good, but just the way they put it together was a little bit cumbersome, especially how it was intermixed with some of the other plot lines that were going on, whereas in this case I liked that they gave Gray classic Star Trek style, this character has insight that can help another character. In this case, Zora, right? And so Gray is able to do that, and then has this insight. Double exposition. We get to see it twice.
Yeah.
That's annoying, but it made sense. It was all like it made sense, and so it worked for me. However, you still go on the internet and people are like, Gray is stupid, social justice, blah blah blah, and it's just like, come on, Jesus.
That's the one thing that really. One of the things that really, gets on my nerves, and I'm not alone in this, is just when people start talking,
bigoted people.
Yeah, when people start talking about Star Trek Discovery, it's like, oh yeah, the SJW
It's so
Star
woke.
Trek, and it's like,
Have you ever fucking watched Star Trek before?
yeah, there's that. Have you ever watched Star Trek? And it's like, are you really unironically using the word SJW? I mean, I know I should be tolerant of people and like their ways of doing things, but that SJW shit, whenever I read it, I can't, I try to take you
can't take it seriously.
I can't. And I try. I'm like, okay, give this person, they're just, falling into like, trends of words and stuff. But it's just like, is that really the direction you're coming from? And what does that even mean? Do you even know what you're saying? It's just such a dumb term.
And by the way, in classic, I'm sure we've mentioned this before, but in classic, just the irony of how the world works, you come up with this term social justice warrior, and it's meant as an insult. And to me, it sounds badass.
Yeah, right.
It's like, fuck yeah, I want
the word
justice
warrior.
in society. Yeah, I'm a warrior for justice.
Right.
It's like, hell
Yeah. Revolution.
Like fucking RoboCop or something.
Yeah. Or people complaining.
It's got justice and warrior.
They're like,
Justice warrior.
there's no
You're
white
a superhero.
There's no white straight men on this show anymore. It's like, yeah, that's great, man. Come on.
Why are you complaining?
You got a few 100 years worth of media, that can sate that need, and you're just desperate for like.
There's like one or two.
I just need a straight white dude. And it's like, I love that fact.
Yeah.
I love the fact that in this episode we have a scene which I didn't even notice. I didn't notice it until it was pointed out by somebody on Twitter, where you have a scene in sickbay where all the characters are black people.
Yeah, that's right.
And I love the fact that in the context of Star Trek, I didn't even notice. Because I'm just watching these characters and everything makes sense and everything is awesome and good, and that's awesome that you can have that in there, and it's worth pointing out, and it's also great that it's a normalizing function, right?
Yeah.
And Star Trek is good at that, where we're like, we know all these characters and we're just enjoying these characters. We can pretend to live in a hopeful future that hopefully we can attain at some point where it's literally meaningless, right?
Future.
We'll see how that goes. I
mean, people's culture isn't meaningless, but I know what you're
not
saying.
The culture, but the idea being that you don't think about it. I mean, clearly people are clearly you have fucking scared white people out there who do notice it, and they go on Reddit and complain that there's not enough fucking white men.
Yeah, that happened, which is it's annoying.
And I like the fact that it's aggravating them, because I think it's like, if they're getting aggravated, that's a good sign. That's good movement forward. It's like shout into the void. There's
Something's working. Something's
working. But yes, Jonathan Frakes, classic Star Trek director man, really has made an imprint on the entire franchise.
He really has.
Ever since TNG.
He just keeps coming back for more
and doing a great job at it too. I mean, 11 Lower Decks too. I mean, the directing aspect is really good, but his parts,
the character of Riker, I like just sort of the direction it took. It seems it's like a natural direction it took, but it's so exaggerated, and at the same time,
meta Riker.
Right. It's a meta Riker.
Even in Picard, he's this like jolly old guy burning pizzas.
That's not nearly enough pizza, Jonathan.
I know. He needed to make a few more.
William.
All right, so the Discovery is on what seems to be a somewhat routine mission in order to discover what's going on with the DMA.
Got that DMA.
They fly into this rift and immediately get lost in this horrific void, which is well illustrated by the modern production value, where they can do that cinematic, it's already super widescreen to begin with, and then it's that shot where it keeps clicking back further and further, and then the Discovery gets smaller and smaller and smaller.
And then they really drive the point home when they're talking about like trying to play take the space interference and turn it into sound. I wonder if they use the Fourier transform to.
Man, you're always bringing up the Fourier transfer.
Yeah, I know, because it's fucking legit, man.
Yeah,
it's real.
You also like talking about moire patterns.
Do I?
Yeah, moire patterns. Those are those when you're wearing like striped stuff and on the TV.
Oh yeah,
on the TV it gets all wavy lines.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of that.
Yeah,
it's a shame that that's still an issue in this day and age.
Well, I think in 4K it's less of an issue.
Can you have this day without also this age?
I don't know. I mean, play around with it. Try it out.
Is it this day and my age, or is it this day and the age of that we are in?
The age, the epoch, the era.
So all you have to say is today.
Yeah. So say it that
right
way.
Now.
So redo the line. I know we're going off script now, but you just back up a bit, redo the line. You said,
today. Why do they still need to do?
Why do they still need? Because you were like, in this day and age, why
Yeah.
would you need to do that? So now do it in the way you're suggesting.
Why would we need to do that today?
Now you sound like a modern person.
You're a hip cat.
You said a modern sentence.
Yeah, that's
Instead
modern.
Of starting it in
modern's
this
good.
day and age, or something like
today. So why is the more effect?
Did you ever notice-
Why is the more effect a thing today?
The moire.
But then people is like, was it not a thing tomorrow or yesterday? And it's like, no, I just meant today.
No.
In this day and age.
this day and age.
None of that impacted us here. But as we alluded to, this is your typical Star Trek problem episode.
Oh yeah, and there was the interference sound. There was no sound.
There was no sound.
That made it creepy.
It was super creepy, extra quiet.
It made it more creepy.
It's like when you're walking around,
weird,
they're like, the birds aren't singing anymore.
Right.
This is effectively a bottle show. I don't know. You kind of still can have bottle shows in the modern era. It's a little bit different than it used to be, but they're all on the ship, and in fact,
they
don't even have to draw stars outside.
Yeah, but they did have to draw that that umbogo ball or whatever what is that tree? The tree ball? Do you know the tree ball?
The orb. The umbungle ball.
The orb?
Tree ball.
The unga bunga ball.
The Lalogi orb. Lalogi orb.
The
unga bunga ball.
Unga bunga ball.
Way
Unga
forward.
bunga ball.
Yeah,
So that required some special effects right there, but not many probably.
Not many.
Only like 2 special
That's pretty
effects.
small potatoes nowadays.
And I liked that the in both Burnham and Zora's version of the tree, it looked nice, except it was also just clearly two-dimensional like screen grabs from previous episodes.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. Is they probably
because the one that the Akali girl had, the Akali woman had was I think, if I recall correctly, it was more 3D and movement.
Yeah.
Whereas Burnham's was just like static images of
I think they totally
Jet Reno or whatever.
Yeah, I think they totally just reused the old effect and didn't really. I wonder how often that happens, because I was thinking about when Leto turned into dust and in Book's dream a couple episodes ago, and I mentioned how I feel like I've seen that effect before, and you were like, yeah, they probably use it other places. I wonder if that's.
I said it looked like he was in Avengers Infinity War.
Yeah, it was Infinity War.
Yeah, totally.
So I guess. they have filters that they use, but I guess I wonder if they probably have there's probably the companies that make special effects, they probably store up all their special effects into like these functions, and you'll like be like
and you just push a button.
and you push the button, you say
Zap.
give it a zap function or a bloopity boop function or a
Clippity clop.
bling blang function, and if you press the bling blang, it goes bling bling bling, and then if you go boopty boop, it goes like boopty boopty boop. And but
Or
that
like a
was yeah, and then imagine the visual that goes along with that.
Kappa.
Like, what do you think happens when you go bing bong like away? You like it,
You made me think about Bing Bong from Inside Out. That's sad.
Bing bong.
Richard Kind.
oh
That's Bing Bong. Did you see Inside Out?
yeah, once it was good. It was really good.
It's the part
can't
where
remember.
it's the part where he would start crying.
So outside.
Okay,
Like, it's just like, anyway,
the one that's like it's probably some kind of pixelated rectangle going away from them, but he was like the swoosh.
don't do drugs, kids. So they get it. We're almost up on a break.
Oh man.
But we've gotten into the rift. We've gotten into the void.
Yeah.
That they're trapped
How
in.
often does Star Trek go? I know I've asked this before, but Star Trek never goes into subspace. Like subspace is for messages only.
No, they go into subspace all the time.
There's
No, they
stuff,
don't.
there's stuff in subspace.
Voyager gets caught on subspace
Late-
like sandbars.
Late
Yeah.
TNG.
But Voyager gets caught on the sandbar. That's different. It's like they get
They're-
stuck on subspace. They're not in
People
subspace.
slip in there by accident, I'm sure, all the time.
What were you saying? DS9?
Oh no, there's some
Didn't they say DS9 in the
later
Discovery
TNG.
episode?
They said something about DS9. I
Yeah, they
forget
mentioned Deep Space
Yeah,
Nine.
but late TNG.
something about
Did they
having
go in,
another DS9 or something. But
So I guess they only use it for messages, not because we don't fit in there, just because it's too wacky in there for us to deal with.
There were those people that were like messing with their dreams or something, and they were like somehow like in a pocket of subspace.
Yeah,
All right,
that's right.
Let's take a quick break and then get back and actually talk about
We'll
Star
talk
Trek
about
Discovery.
other podcasts.
We'll actually. I mean, now that we've
talk
already
about
gotten
the
into the
old
meat and
days.
potatoes.
We're in the meat and the potatoes. All right, we'll be right back in almost immediately from your perspective. Okay, we're back
We came back.
We're
from
back.
the break.
Sorry,
from the
Now we
break.
sound
I
funny.
just went on a run.
Dan's gotten into jogging lately, and he's ran around the block a few
Yog.
times.
God, boy, I'm so tired. I need to exercise more.
He's all yogged out. man.
How long was I gone? Like an hour or two? Something. It felt like a week.
It was like 5 minutes. Huffing and puffing, effing and
Yeah.
jeffing. That's what you get on the It's Got Star Trek podcast. Huffing and puffing, effing and jeffing.
Effing and jeffing.
Funny
Lots of
voices.
All right, so problem solving. So we've got a couple things going on here.
We have a insecure ship computer.
Insecure ship computer,
Yeah, that was something. man.
which was interesting. And I did enjoy
You do
it.
not.
Yeah.
You do not need that
Yeah,
when you're trapped
it's,
in subspace.
it's like
You don't
that's
need
like-
your computer
that's
freaking
a
out at you.
problem.
When your computer's like, I don't know, man.
I can't handle. I don't think I
This
can
is
handle
really
that.
fucked up.
There's so much fucking shit going on. I gotta play some sort of magic backgammon.
Yeah.
Like get my mind calmed about this.
That
All
must
right.
be happens if you're ever on your computer and you find out all your resources start topping out for some
Yeah,
reason.
like when you got Chrome open.
Yeah, when you got Chrome and suddenly everything like
Your
tops
computer,
out.
Computer just has a nervous fucking breakdown. It's just like, no, I'm not gonna do it. You try to load Photoshop and it's just like, no, sorry, man, it's just not gonna happen.
I'm gonna turn you off and on again.
That's an application exception right there, buddy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but we have this whole other thing where Book tries to jump, and there's an energy surge that comes through. Couple things happen there. First, we get this image. It's not not explained clearly, and it's kind of funny because in other parts of this, even in this episode, Discovery will have like a lot of exposition, just explaining very clearly what's going on. On the other hand, they just have Stamets looking at an image of the mycelial network that looks like it has a bunch of holes in it, and he's just like, "Oh no!" He's like, "Oh yeah, we can't jump," but he doesn't like go on to explain
Doesn't say
in
why.
detail that he just is basically like, shit looks pretty fucked up. Now, that's enough for us to understand why they can't jump out, which I guess is the main storytelling function they have here is get across to the audience, can't jump.
Somehow subspace is messed.
Wait,
That's not an option.
Is this the point, or is this before when he says like, look, this is how it looked outside the mycelial network looked outside of the
that's
void.
after.
Okay, yeah, that was later on than what you're talking
Later,
about?
he's explaining to the
Yeah.
captain what the problem is, I think.
Yeah, and it looked like when he just showed this is how it looks now, and this is how it looks inside the void. I was like, They don't. One doesn't look significantly more
No,
chaotic
it just
than
one
the
had,
other.
one had a few like holes in it.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I was expecting
Like,
it to be
wasn't connected enough.
like I thought it was going to be all scribbly or something. It was just like.
But part of the
yeah.
issue I had is like I didn't 100% know what I was supposed to assume.
Right, exactly.
I wasn't
right.
like was I supposed to assume that these holes mean that it's like is it completely disconnected from the rest of the mycelial network? Is it that these holes are in the way? Like why are they making electrical charges come
it's
out?
like we'd have to be experts on the mycelial network
Yeah.
to understand what they were trying to show us.
Right, and then the analogy he used was like so out of date. Right, he even had to explain to us because he said, "It's like a book as if he touched an electrical wire."
if we still use
the
electrical
wire. It's like
Did they use them back then?
one of them
in
should have
their
been
time?
one of them should have been like, "Okay, Grandpa," like
Yeah.
because like
and I don't know
why would they use that analogy in the
It's like, yeah, and you can
future?
use your fucking fax machine.
Yeah, right. It seems like they could have picked a better analogy that would be more like apply evergreen, as you would
It's-
say, like
it's
that would
also
apply
an-
to us now and them in the future.
Well, and the other thing is it almost seems nonsensical in terms of when you watch what happened to Book, you're like, oh yeah, that guy got like electricity, like that's what it looked like.
Yeah, right.
I
You
mean,
don't have
maybe
to-
it wasn't. Maybe it was some futuristic form of plasma electricity. But the point is that's what it looked
we
like.
didn't
So-
need to know that it was like touching an electrical or touching a live wire.
my point is that the audience doesn't require the analogy
Yeah, right.
because they have the visual analogy,
Right.
and the analogy doesn't make sense to the people he's talking to.
Yeah, they don't need that extra confusion of an outdated term.
How much do you think TV and movies?
They don't even know what sonar is.
$9.99.
How much do you think TV and movies try to like make things more more understandable to like someone who is visually impaired?
30%.
Well, they do.
Because
I mean, they have-
I just thought of that. It just occurred to me just
Well,
now.
they have
that-
service. It's interesting because you can turn this on sometimes where
where it describes
it's
the.
a describing
Oh,
thing.
man.
Yeah.
It explains what's happening.
So, but to take it a step above, I wonder if they'll ever really start making like this the way they approach a show more understandable to someone who can't see. I don't know if that's like,
you mean within the show itself?
within the show itself, like so.
Maybe
it's-
that's what they were doing.
yeah,
here.
I mean that's all. That's the only thing I could think.
Which in that
'Cause
case, like I'm all for increased accessibility.
but I don't think that that's why they did it.
Yeah.
I don't.
Now, if they
think that's-
told me they were like, yes, we put in this slightly clunky exposition for the purpose of accessibility, I'd be like, all right, that's cool.
Right.
I'm into that. But it, maybe state that, maybe toot your own horn a little bit and it'll
Yeah,
smooth
right.
things over with the rest of us.
Yeah, okay, right. That's totally something you need to sort of. That's one of those situations where you need to, like you said, toot your own horn or
Yeah.
let people know because it's like, oh, you're doing a cool thing. Otherwise,
Yeah.
they just think you're.
We're writing the episode that it can be enjoyed from multiple different perspectives.
Otherwise, they think you're being
Yeah.
inscrutable.
But what I wanted to mention was that Book trying to do this jump results in him, presumably because his hippocampus or whatever is lighting up like crazy from this energy.
Hippocampus.
What about his
He-
rhino
That's
campus?
a seahorse.
He starts seeing his asshole dad and having conversations with the asshole dad. Now, again, here, I think what we were supposed to assume is that this is a hallucination generated from Book's mind,
Right.
based off of knowledge of his dad, where it gives him the opportunity to resolve this issue with his father.
He's got some issues with that guy.
And it worked for me, but it felt somewhat truncated in the sense that his dad basically went from "you're a fucking piece of shit" to at the end to then being like, "I'm a piece of shit," and good on you for not being as big a piece of shit as I am.
Yeah,
It was a little confusing.
It was confusing, and it was made a little bit more confusing, I think, at the end when Book says, he goes, "I don't know if this is actually you, but
Yeah.
I'm going to choose to believe it rather than some part of my subconscious." So he specifically says he chooses that. He says because if spirits go on, that means Leto,
Yes.
Kaheem, and everyone else have lost. They've not gone at all. Now,
I felt weird about that.
I was a weird thing to say. I don't know how to put my finger on it. It's like he chooses. So basically, he chooses to believe that it's like I'm going to choose to believe that Leto is still alive, and I'm like, okay, so what?
and we don't know enough about
You're gonna. What's the point of you choosing
Yeah.
to believe? Like,
I don't think he's ever going to get better if he's.
that's what I was thinking. I was thinking that's not good for healing.
Yeah.
And more importantly, because we don't have enough background on his people's spirituality, we don't really have a framework to balance it against.
Little bits
Is
and
what he's doing.
pieces.
Like, for example, if their spirituality already believed that, then really what this scene is saying is that he is deciding to adopt more fully
Right.
his people's spirit, that's a great potential character point to make, but it's not made here because we don't know what their version of whatever believe. Maybe do they not believe in that at all? And so, because it's a different thing if his people don't generally believe in an afterlife and that he's deciding to invent one on his own. Again, nothing wrong with that if that's the case, but that means something different character-wise than if he's instead falling back on you take different things away, and because we don't have enough information, we don't know exactly what that statement meant.
So I guess I can only assume that the writers were trying to express to us that he's coming to terms with it, but exactly like you said, is he really? And we don't know. There's not enough information to really know in what way that is coming to terms, like you said, because if he's more sort of like embracing his roots of Quasianites.
We're getting little bits of the Quasion situation, but it's only leading us to have more.
And it's all after
questions.
the fact because it got blowed up.
And there's that too.
Right. Well,
it's like learning about Alderaan or something.
Bummer, dude. I do remember when President Trilla, not Trini,
Trilak?
Trillick,
President Trillick?
President Trillick.
Torini is the president of Vulcan.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Oh, you want the president of? You're referring to the president of Vulcan. It's Torini.
It's not Torini, is it?
Yes, T apostrophe.
It's Torina.
R,
That's what it is.
Torina.
That's right. Because I remember you.
Torina. I mean, I call her Torini because we're close. It's a nickname.
This is a nickname.
Yeah, you're Reenie.
It's a little old Reenie.
Yeah,
Teeny Reenie.
How you doing, Reenie?
Teeny Reenie.
How you doing, Reenie? Haven't seen you in a million years.
So
you got any of that Vulcan stew?
Some Vulcan
Some Vulcan desert stew?
Some flavorless soup.
some raspberry wine. Do they have raspberries in
Yeah, but they're called Vulcan
I don't think they
raspberries.
have berries.
They're called Vulcan raspberries, right?
And they're green and covered in spikes.
Yeah,
and they're
I'm
poison.
sure they're spiky.
So a few episodes back, when she mind melded with Book, she was all like, you guys are Quasion. That's your emotions, your deal.
Yeah.
Us Vulcans need to follow this path, but you Quasions are emotional need, and that's your strength. And so that was his father kind of went along with that idea. Whereas here's the I don't want to say downside, but here is like the danger of like spending your time sort of in getting your power from emotions and stuff like that. Is he kind of did that, except he went in specifically the direction of anger. So is that supposed to be representative of how Quasions can somehow get in trouble as they become too angry? Because he specifically said, "I'm guided by anger," So I don't know if but that can be equated to like anyone's father, right? That's like a common thing of like people and their fathers, right?
Yeah.
My dad was so angry and he never approved of me, or whatever that kind of thing is.
Basic vengeance because all of your people were just wiped out.
Yeah, but he was angry. Like apparently, Book's dad was angry before that because Book was remembering.
He was.
Well, yeah.
So I'm wondering if that's a trap Quasions fall into, is being too angry. I don't know. And then Saru,
we don't know enough about him.
We don't know enough. But then Saru, had a good point of like, you try to do stuff for the greater good. Now, the problem with the anger is it's not like something you can control. Emotions aren't really something to control. They're just something you sort of manage. I think is a better word, because it's like you don't control
I agree.
the flow of a river, but you manage its direction and use it to your advantage.
Where I think it is important to make the distinction, because I think where the measure of control is not in your experience of the emotions, but your reactions to them.
Yeah.
And what do you do with those emotions? Right. And that's fundamentally, we know, people have suggested this already previously, but I think by this episode it's very clear that the theme throughout these seasons so far has really been around mental health. All of our characters in one fashion or another have been talking about things, including Zora. In this episode, the big thing is about Zora experiencing fear.
Even the ship needs counseling.
And the paralysis of fear. But we've seen it with Burnham, with Book, with Culber, and Tilly working out her, trying to figure out what her issues are. And they're all at different levels and different degrees and with different amounts of impact, with Book being sort of the far side of one, part of the equation because his fucking planet exploded, right?
Maybe it's those surfers have it right, man, and maybe that's why surfers like it, because you don't control the wave, but you ride the wave, and
you just hang loose.
And you hang loose,
hang 10, F and Jeff,
and you manage the wave to get an enjoyable experience. So I guess that's what you're supposed to do with emotions. You know what they need to have? They need to have on Discovery some an artist type character. They don't have any artist. Like, I mean, not to say none of them are artistic, but they don't have a person who specifically makes,
paintings or something?
Paintings, music, that kind of thing. You don't really need it, I guess. It's not really...
See, if TNG were done today, you would have had the artist in residence who would be painting a daily graffiti.
Yeah, right. Totally.
And it would be a whole running gag, the graffiti is next to holodeck 3 today.
But that would be an interesting sort of approach, because whereas with Saru, he was talking about how he was across from the Behar, Joy Behar.
Yes, across from Joy Behar. The Baul.
And
where did you get Behar?
But he was saying
he just wanted to bring her. He's always trying to get Joy Behar introduced into the podcast.
We should get her on the podcast.
That would be amazing. But he was basically saying he wasn't going to indulge in his emotions because he fucking felt so much rage, but that wasn't helpful to indulge in those emotions. But if you're an artist, it can be helpful to indulge in those emotions, and that's why artists are all fucked up, right? Because they have to indulge in all these fucking hardcore emotions.
Well, the thing is, it's all contextual, because I think with Saru, what's important to remember is before he left the 22nd century, right, had started the beginning of the process of bringing peace to the Baul and the Ketaminites, the Kevorkians,
Ketaminians,
Kevorkians,
the Kelpians, right? So the Kelpians and the Baul, right? When he left,
Ketaminians,
they had started their first baby steps of finding a way to live together. They jump 1,000 years in the future, and they have done that in the intervening time. His impact is now. He's seen the results of it, but his mind, of course, is still,
right.
Just a few years ago, they murdered his fucking parents.
He didn't have 900 years to sort of let it sink in.
Exactly. And these people that he's dealing with are, of course, different, but they look exactly the same. And
they're same, except different.
Yeah. So that's a very interesting context. And that's one of the great things about science fiction is you can play around with context that would not come up in regular old fashioned standard real life, right?
Or westerns.
Yes, or you can go to do the holodeck and do a western, or go to a planet and it's a western planet.
Do they have holodecks on Discovery?
Yeah, but now you can have holodecks in your room, right? So Burnham has that thing where she just has the holo, like her room just turns into a holodeck.
So they should have pulled a DS9 because the pattern buffer was here to save the day again. The pattern buffer.
Yeah,
so they should
our man Bashir.
Yeah, so they should have pulled a DS9, our man Bashir, and put their bodies in the pattern buffer, and then they transferred their consciousness to the holodeck, and I guess their physical blueprint. What was the deal with that, our man Bashir? It was like they got the body was in
the body.
The body. You give them
the bodies were in the hologram. The holodeck.
No,
Yes.
the bodies were in the pattern buffer, but the holodeck somehow formulated the bodies.
They couldn't stay in the pattern buffer.
So they put them in the
transferred.
The bodies were in the holodeck in that case, and the minds were in the rest of the computer.
And they were able to take the information, and then they used replicator, tech transporter. And they put it. Okay, so they could have done that. They could have put them
and kitchen utensils.
They could have put them in the holodeck.
They brought people back to life.
They should have really explored that technology so they could put people into the pattern buffer and then throw them into
that's what happened with Scotty.
And then throw them into
It totally happened to Scotty.
Did that. He was looped in a pattern buffer for many years.
But what I'm saying is, it's probably boring in there. What they could have done is
Did Scotty make Admiral?
I think he was a captain.
He got up to
captain. What they should have done, as I'm saying,
coulda,
shoulda, woulda, is they put their bodies in they give them to watch, and they put their bodies in the pattern.
I watched you wash them. Maybe they had fucking lava soap.
They didn't have no fucking lava.
I used the same goddamn soap you did when I was done.
Superfly TNT.
My towel didn't look like a goddamn maxi pad. Pulp Fiction, by the way. This is a quote from Pulp Fiction. This is not extemporaneous humor.
We did not make this up.
Not make that
they
up.
could, if you haven't figured out where I'm going with this, but yeah,
I haven't.
they could have put their bodies into the pattern buffer, which they did, but then they should have transferred them over to the holodeck so they could just live a normal life without their bodies, and they could
During the emergency?
Yeah. That's what
I don't think the
why not?
holodeck wouldn't have been all that functional during the emergency.
You think that holodeck wasn't functional? See, that's the only reason I could think they wouldn't do that.
Yeah, they turned off life support and all that, and why the fuck would you do that? I do agree. Again, here there are a couple, the reason it doesn't bother me is that this is not new to Star Trek, nor is it new to storytelling in general. However,
New to Star.
we see again examples where it's an emergency situation. And everything's about to go to horrible shit. And everyone's supposed to be doing their business to get into the pattern buffer, and they got to solve this problem, blah, blah, blah. Time is of the essence. And we have Owosukan talking to Saru, telling him a story about this tragic incident that impacted her mentally as a child. Again, it's an issue of her coming to terms with something. And it's a great scene. It's a great speech. And Saru's all like, thank you for telling me that story. I know you felt you couldn't help, but at least you were there to bear witness, which I think philosophically it's a good thing a good message to convey, that it's like that is doing something. It may not feel like you're doing what you wanted to do. All that's great. But the whole time I'm watching this and literally sparks and fire. And it's like the void is crushing in on them. And she seems so calm. It's like, come on.
Yeah.
Again, didn't bother me because
and like then they all
Star Trek does that all the time.
They blink out all slowly too. You see like each group of like people like blink out and go to the end of the pattern buffer.
Yeah, it seemed they didn't. Yeah, she's kind of made two errors in a row there on that show. She wanted to leave her post for some emotional childhood stuff, and then when it was time to leave, she had to talk. I felt Saru was being a little condescending, a little patronizing, because he's like, "And I thank you for sharing your story with me." Like, I know he wasn't. I know that was meant to be.
He was being sweet,
but when if someone said that to me, I'd be like, you're just saying like, thank you for.
He's
that
not
was
a
cute.
human. He doesn't care about our human stories.
It's like if he looked at me and said,
our
like,
human
he
ways.
looked at me and said, "That's cute that you told me that." That's what it sounded like to me.
Yeah,
it's cute that you told me that.
He doesn't care about humans.
It wasn't like, oh yeah,
he just cares about kelp.
He wasn't like, yeah, you're right.
Get a ball in that
He eats kelp all the
He
time.
wasn't like, yeah, you're right. Trauma can be blah 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 blah. He was just like, thank you for sharing. It's like it's like, mommy, look, I have a block. Oh, thank you for sharing. You know.
For breakfast, Saru eats Kelpios. It's like Cheerios.
Is there Kelpios made out of Kelpians? Was he a cannibal now?
No, they're Cheerios made out of kelp.
No, they're Kelpians.
Kelpios.
You remember Urkel-O's?
Urkel-O's.
I do not.
That was on South Park.
Did I do
No,
that?
it was a real.
Was it real?
It was a real cereal.
I thought it was on South Park.
Urkel-O's.
Search your memories. Memory banks.
Whoa, it was real. Urkel-O's cereal.
I don't think it lasted forever.
And it's got that
but-
picture of Steve Urkel doing that dance.
Yeah,
They were doing the Urkel dance.
All right. So what's next?
So didn't
What's
we?
next on the
Didn't you
docket?
postulate once that they're called Kelpians because they eat kelp?
That's what I was saying. Yeah.
Were you saying that?
Probably
I would say-
Jesse.
I that's the kind of shit I would say.
It's more. It's sensible, so it's probably Jesse.
Well, I
like
don't
I
know.
was trying to make a joke.
But
out
we're
of it
not
or
called
something.
like hamburgerians or like or
I don't eat
carotians.
Carotians, hamburgers.
Or they don't call us water
cornerstone of any nutritious
waterites.
breakfast.
They
I do
don't.
eat carrots.
They don't call us waterites. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I don't think you're named after the thing you eat, and I bet they eat more than
Yeah, but
just
on
kelp.
Star- you are what
on
you
Star
eat.
Trek,
That yes,
you
in
know,
a sense,
like Klingons eat klings. Klingons eat klings.
that's true. They do eat klings.
Ferengis eat ferengs.
Romulans love to have a lot of ROM on their computers.
Yeah.
And they hang out with ROM. No. It's the best I could do.
Romulans got that whole other thing going on.
Romulans. Okay, so yes.
What were we saying?
We're talking about mental health.
man.
We all need counseling.
We're like avoiding the issue here.
I didn't.
Avoiding the Noid.
I've been trying to get Zora's joke. I still don't get her joke.
Which joke?
It says when Gray was like, "Have you tried resetting your routing system? Maybe that'd help." And then Zora goes, "It didn't. Oxygen levels on mess hall deck 5 are nominal." And then Gray goes, "Was that a joke? Do you want me to repeat the joke? I'll repeat the joke."
No,
for you."
you just stated the joke, and I
It was
yeah,
a computer joke.
it was a computer joke.
Have you tried resetting the routing system? It didn't. Wait, sorry. Have you tried resetting the routing system? Maybe that would help. It didn't. Oxygen levels on mess hall deck 5 are nominal. I don't get the joke.
It's about the delivery, I think.
I don't.
I think
I don't
because previously Zora was saying that she's distracted by all this information coming in that she's dealing with and citing that, the replicator on Deck 5
right.
needs
I got
to-
that
with
part.
all that stuff. What
So
do
I
you
guess,
need all this stuff
I am
for?
agreeing with you that the joke is very thin.
I don't
But
see it. I don't see any
but where I
joke.
see the hints of the joke is that she is mentioning another banal fact, in this case about the oxygen. But yes, it's not what one would call a classically well-constructed joke. She needs to go back and get that Joe Piscopo program.
Zora's got to work
Yeah.
on some stuff.
She's got to do the data thing and
She's got all that
practice
sphere data.
telling some yucks.
Well, I got Data's jokes because he just read them from a joke book,
Yeah, she's got to do that at least. She's got to get the jokes for blokes or whatever.
Jokes for blokes.
Get one of them joke books that's got
Jokes
all them
for
jokes in
blokes.
them.
Joke talk for robot. Oxygen levels on Mess Hall Deck 5 are nominal.
You're like,
Maybe it's a joke because on Deck 5, because the mess hall, of course the mess hall is empty because everyone is on the bridge. But
Well, you
still,
can-
but I don't see how that relates to what...
people can write in at feedback@discuss.
What does it have to do with routing systems?
and explain the joke to us?
What does that have to do with
if
routing
you get
systems?
the joke? I don't. I'm not saying it's a good joke. I'm saying I see the bones there.
Maybe she was trying to say, maybe when Gray was saying, have you tried resetting your routing system? Zora was like, I did. And when she said routing system, she meant I routed the people from the mess hall over to the bridge. And now she's like, oxygen levels are nominal because there's no more people on the mess hall.
Turning all that
they
oxygen
would create
into CO2.
That would be CO2, not oxygen.
Yeah,
This
you're
doesn't
pushing.
work.
You're
Doesn't
adding
work.
You're
If
really
any-
building something out of nothing.
Yeah,
there.
if anything, people on the level would decrease oxygen levels. Okay, so never mind. I don't know what the fuck. Someone make me know what the fuck.
We almost got it. It was almost there.
We've almost got it. It's almost there.
They had photonic flares.
They did have photonic flares.
Ever since the doctor from Voyager was talking about the photonic what is he saying? Photonic photonic
Complabulator.
The photonic
photonic cannon. Yeah.
photonic cannon.
Every time I hear the word photonic now, I think of the doctor.
Well, it's associated with the Doctor line. He's a photonic energy being, after all. Mm-hmm. Yeah, don't you know it?
Did you notice Stamets is less grumpy now? Because when Book came to help, Stamets was like, thank you for being here.
And he was like,
An older Stamets would have just said, yeah, sure, whatever, just stay out of the way.
And he made a point. What was interesting, he stopped because he didn't say it at first, and then he was like, oh yeah, it's like a mental checklist. He's like, I have to stop being a fucking dickhead to people.
So that goes to your point of dealing with mental health and being
he
more
seemed-
balanced person. Stamets is working on it.
I think he's ahead of the game compared to some of his compatriots, but he also was dealing with some squirrely business.
Well, he's had to
going way
confront
back.
it way sooner than they
Yeah.
have because he was over the top.
Yeah, he
you
was
know?
doing some-
Where someone like Colbert, he's been having to hold it back for so long, it's really hard for him to deal with it. Mm-hmm. Sorry, Jesse. What?
oh well, he had this super bright-eyed expression for most of the scenes he was in.
Yeah.
because he's dealing with science and he's all excited about it, and there's this potentially they're about to find some stuff out, so he's really into it, and almost everything he says is he's being all happy about it.
Yeah, when Burnham was like, Stamets, if you're sitting on any extra power, we're gonna need it. And he's like, oh sure, I think I've got some tucked away under my
he's
chair.
making weird
He's being a
jokes. It's
smartass. Yeah, he doesn't. He was. It wouldn't. He would have if he made a similar joke before. It would have been much more dismissive.
It's what are you
and
talking about?
Impatient.
Why are you being an asshole?
He's been nicer ever since in the end of season 3 when
right.
they threw him in basically threw him in an escape pod and jettisoned
He was
out
all
against his will,
no.
and he was all pissed off, and it seemed like it was going to be this big deal. But then they came back this season. He's like, I'm over
It was nothing.
And ever since last week when Tarka, goosed his ego.
Oh yeah,
he's been.
We
he's
didn't hear
been in a
anything
better
from
mood.
Tarka. I wonder if Tarka's going to come back.
No, well, next episode. I saw the
okay.
preview for the next episode.
Yeah, I haven't
so.
seen the preview. I remember who you're talking about, Tarka
Tarka.
being on not BSG,
The Expanse.
I remember that. Oh, speaking of Battlestar Galactica,
Sean Doyle.
in the newer Battlestar Galactica as opposed to the older one from earlier in time.
So say we all.
So say we all as it should be,
From
or
40.
as it will, or this is the thing.
It's all happened
This
before.
is what's in the Mandalorian. They say this is the thing.
Yeah, that's you got it exactly right. That's the slogan. The Mandalorian says this is the thing.
This is the thing.
Like anytime something serious happens, he's like, "This is the thing." They're like, "Why are you doing it? Why are you doing it that way? Why are you doing it that specific way?" And he's like, "Because this is the thing."
Yeah, that's right. I know it's not that. when they say it's going to reach them in 33 minutes.
And then it's exactly 33 minutes?
Well, I just remembered there was that BSG episode, Battlestar episode.
Oh, 33 minutes. That's
Yeah,
that's the first episode of season 1 after the miniseries. It's fucking fantastic.
Yeah.
It's like one of the best episodes of television ever.
Yeah, it's really good.
I mean, it's tense and horrifying, and the series just gets more tense and horrifying.
Yeah, it's stressful.
It's a
to watch.
very stressful
'Cause you
show
really
to watch.
feel like their pain in that.
Yeah.
Just like, yeah.
I mean, it's one key difference. I loved the new BSG, but it's an intense show, and a big difference between that and, I mean, Star Trek can be intense, but there's a certain level of comfort. Right.
Yeah.
And part of it is, some of it is the predictability, which is not a negative thing. It's like it's like in classical Greece, you have modes of storytelling, and
Totally.
depending on your mood, you pick the mode of storytelling that you want. And Star Trek is there to give you ideas of hope and questions of morality and stuff. But the story structure largely is going to be fairly straightforward. And then The Expanse, which I love, it's complicated and
it's not comfortable.
interesting. And that can be a very tense show, but it has a different flavor than BSG. BSG is sort of an existential horror. The Expanse can go in that
I'm
direction.
sorry. Yeah, that's what I meant. I meant Battlestar
Yeah.
is not comfortable at all.
Yeah, no, The Expanse, there's a different
Yeah.
vibe to it.
Yeah,
even when it gets existentially horrifying, like,
But
it doesn't pound on your fucking head as much as BSG does.
Yeah, BSG, definitely deals with more just hopelessness.
But we were talking about favorite, the people quibbling about Star Trek and stuff, and different styles of Star Trek, and I was thinking about how I will unequivocally say, when people ask what's your favorite Star Trek, for me it's still Deep Space Nine. Now there's a lot of other Star Trek that I fucking love, but Deep Space Nine is probably my favorite. But what's the Star Trek that I turn on when I just kind of want to veg out and have some like comfy nostalgia? That's probably TNG.
Yeah.
Right? Tons of TOS I love, tons of Voyager, but Deep Space Nine, that's more like when I want to think about stuff, or like really like I want to be a little bit more engaged. TNG,
It's not as comfy.
right? And TNG has wonderful, interesting, introspective episodes as well. But then you can pop on an episode like The Game or something and just be like, you know what? I can just sit on the couch and just sort of, I don't have to worry about nothing.
Deep Space Nine has the parts that like make you mad. You're like, this shit's happening and it's pissing me off. It's like, why are they doing that?
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I don't know if I like which. It's always hard to answer the question of my favorite.
And it can change through time and
But
given mood and all that.
I honestly don't know which one I intend to enjoy more, DS9 or TNG. But you're right about the TNG being.
Yeah, and for some people it's TOS, for some people it's Voyager. That gives them that same whatever it is that's the one that like gets them in that groove, right? And for some people it's Discovery, and the serialized storytelling gives it a different flavor. And this season, I think, is going to be very interesting because we've talked about it before on this podcast, how when we're not doing live, like currently airing shows, we hop around the universe and just pick episodes.
Around the universe.
And
Like a space bunny.
yeah, like a space tardigrade hopping in and out. And that's very difficult to
Cosmic
do.
kangaroo.
with-
Just call me the cosmic kangaroo.
I will not.
Okay.
With Discovery and Picard, that's very difficult to do because they're so serialized that it's hard to be like, oh, let's just look at episode 5 of
We have
Picard
to
or whatever.
do the whole season.
Yeah, it's a trickier thing to do. This season might be a little different. Some of these episodes that we, after the first couple, I think you could conceivably jump into them without having much of the other context, because even the DMA as the season long arc running along there, it tends to be sort of like it's the foundation of the plot moving forward, but it's not the main thing that's going on. The main thing that's going on is something with the characters, somebody's manipulating the characters, or they're trying to solve some problem, whatever. Okay, so let's take another quick break, and then we'll come back and wrap things up. Okay, we're back. We're back from the break.
We came back.
Break number 2.
The Ikuzen. It was an amulet worn by adult male Kwejan who were expected to never take it off. However, it was not to be worn by cowards, and this is directly referencing Kobayashi Maru and Stormy Weather from Discovery. So it's the book thing.
Book wearing his dad giving him a hard time. I did like the scenes, even though we discussed how there was a bit of a disconnect, almost like they were missing a scene or two between him and his between Book and his hallucinatory dad. I did really enjoy. I mean, the dynamic was interesting, and you could see it as it was a form of therapy in a sense that it was almost like if you could have a hologram of dealing with people like an old teacher or somebody, like if you could have that conversation you needed to have with somebody that you didn't have before, he was just having in his head. It worked.
Yeah.
It came a little bit out of nowhere. And
It was kind of weird, like in the sense that it came out of nowhere and it kind of disappeared, and you're like, what was that? But I mean, it worked. It worked to give you some background about his relationship with his father and his upbringing, and
it would have been weird if he was just talking like to himself.
And it was his birthday.
Yeah, and it was his birthday,
his dad's birthday, right?
Just so happened.
Yeah, just happened.
Coincidentally.
As well. Oh yeah, and
Ghosts always come back on their birthday. That's how.
Yeah, well, yeah, and then but then the other thing I wanted to
Except
talk
for
about,
Jesus, he comes back on like the day he died or whatever.
like after Easter,
three
or
days
something?
after,
3 days after he
Yeah.
died.
Yeah. Typical
really
Jesus. He's just like I ain't coming out like right away.
Right.
I'll come back a little bit later.
I'll like make you be like, is he here? And then I'll right when you give up, you go home because you're bored.
But you
I'll
get
ruin your
eggs
night.
and other chocolates and stuff.
Yeah, you
which
get
is very
eggs.
cool.
Jelly beans.
Which is highly inappropriate given the context of the holiday. It was so weird. It's like, oh, we got a rabbit, we got a bunch of chocolate, we're going to find eggs that are somehow associated with the rabbit.
Yeah.
We know it's about the fertility stuff. We know all that. It's kind of an odd thing. Anyway, that's another podcast.
Does it have to be though?
But so what I wanted to mention was, what did you all think about Zora's song?
Oh yeah.
I think that with all that sphere data, she could have found a better recording of Stormy Weather.
You think so?
But it was perfectly fine.
It was fine.
I couldn't tell if I liked it or hated it.
Yeah, I wasn't sure.
I mean, it wasn't.
I went back and forth.
Wasn't my favorite
Yeah.
rendition of that song.
I liked that they did something different.
Yeah.
Yes.
I thought it was a weird dramatic. It was just a purely dramatic thing that like it was just kind of bizarre. I thought I didn't like it or hate it. I was just kind of like, I don't know what the.
I wanted to, and I really, and maybe they will. I kind of wanted to interrogate the decision-making process Zora utilized, whatever algorithm she utilized, in order to select which song would be appropriate to sing in this particular instant.
Oh, you think she was just had no tact when she was singing that song?
No. I mean, I think Zora picked that song for a reason.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying, do you think it was it was like too close to home? Like it's too
Too on the nose?
No, meaning more like, we're going through some shit and you're rubbing it in our face right now that we're going, we're in storms and we're going to die and now you're singing about it. That's fucked up. You know what I'm saying? It's like
That's the point of a song.
It's like you don't bring up someone's, dead relative while they're, around unless you know it's
And
okay
for the
some
purpose
reason.
of distracting, I mean, because I was thinking, like, what would be some alternatives? I want to hear from you guys what you think some alternatives would. I for when I went instead of a song, I was thinking, what if Zora was like, oh, you need a distraction? Would you like me to put on a podcast? And then she puts on some like, wait, don't tell me, or something, and
wait, don't tell me.
or put on some comedy Bang Bang, whatever she thinks would, distract
So you need
Burnham
some Mo
from the
Rocca.
burning and the,
Mo
and
Rocca.
the horribleness.
Mo Rocca. I'm talking
What do
about
you-
Mo
what-
Rocca.
what
He's
would-
on Wait, Don't Tell Me.
What would another song, if it's a song
was thinking-
alternative or something?
Like anything goes,
She could have been playing
Anything
a video game.
goes.
I remember that because the trombone part to start the song, because I played trombone.
Yeah.
And I got to at the beginning go burp 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 burp, and it was awesome.
You gotta love those bass clef contributions to the symphonic.
Yeah, and it just began like a solo. It was just me playing that. It was all awesome. It's all like, yeah. So that's a happy song. And it's like, anything goes for real. The storm's gonna come and do its shit, but we might get out. Anything goes. Who knows? But we're singing in a fun way.
How about you, Jesse? What's an alternative song? What about something like punk rock? What about some Ramones or something?
Yeah. I was thinking the
Black Flag.
the version I like of that song the best is the Etta James version.
Oh, so
of
you want
Stormy
to
Weather.
stick with
I
Stormy
was
Weather,
just thinking
but a different version of it instead of
I
Zora
was-
singing it.
I was all hung up on how I wanted the song to go.
Because I guess Zora did say, she said, "Do you want me to sing you a song?" She didn't say, "Do you want me to play an MP3 for you?"
Exactly. Yeah.
So maybe she could have been singing. I don't know.
But she could have done a different song. that
What about that?
a white
What's that-
girl could sing. I don't know.
That's a good point.
I
What
guess I said it. Yeah.
what about if Zora sung this is our Christmas episode, apropos of nothing, non-denominational Christmas episode because it's landing on Christmas.
She could have done "Baby, It's Cold Outside."
Well, what if Zora did her rendition of like the Pogues' "Christmas in New York" or something like that? Something different. I don't know. I think there are maybe some other song options.
I'm trying to look up the actor who plays Zora, Annabelle Wallace.
See, that sounds like a made-up name. Now, before the people out there point out that all names are made up, yeah, I know. I know that all words are made up too. I know.
Art Vandelay.
Well, I mean, she's not. She's definitely a white person, Annabelle Wallace.
Well, I mean,
confirmed
I didn't.
You know what? This is one of Dan's hobbies is identifying white people.
Well, no, Jesse brought it up. I don't just say like, that person that was white. Yeah. I know. I got a sense for these things.
If you need to figure out someone's ethnicity, call Dan.
No, it wasn't apropos of nothing.
Yeah, in this case, it was not apropos.
And if you need a second opinion,
it was
for
propos
confirmation,
of
that's
something.
So Jesse saying that
Jesse can find out if she's Catholic or not.
Jesse was trying to figure out where. Well, Jesse was assuming she wasn't something when she sang the song.
Assuming all sorts of things. All right. Well, what we see as
entered into dark territory.
Did I make it? Did I make it uncomfortable? You guys?
No.
Did I make it weird?
we see the Discovery leave.
Well,
We don't see the Discovery leaving, but we see that fiery horribleness, and the special effects are awesome. And then afterwards, Burnham wakes up. And it's all trippy and scary, and she wakes up, and everyone's all happy because she's alive. It's not entirely clear why. I mean, I understand why Burnham was "quote unquote" going down with the ship or staying with the ship.
I guess it was just to make sure that nothing got fucked up. But it seems like Zora. I guess at that point, Burnham didn't know it was. Is Zora going to have a nervous breakdown? Do I need to be here in case Zora freaks out?
But also, couldn't Burnham? My understanding, my reading of the events is Burnham intended to stay there. Mainly in order to bring people back out of the transporter buffer when the time comes, probably because of some latent distrust of Zora being able to handle it and not having a nervous breakdown in some point in the process, or more charitably that Zora could be damaged in the exiting process since it was going to be a pretty intense thing that they were going through. But at a certain point, Burnham explains we're meant to understand that Burnham is feeling herself like pass out or whatever, and it's like, okay, I'm not gonna make it. I'm passing out. It's too fucking hot or whatever. And so she, Zora sings her a song and she passes out. She wakes up. At that point, you think, like, wouldn't Burnham or maybe even Zora say, okay, well, I'm going to beam you.
Yeah, right.
I'm going to go ahead and beam you into the pattern buffer because you don't need to be here.
Yeah.
Like, if you're passed out, your job is done. You can be put back in the safety.
Yeah, it seems like they could.
And there's nothing to say that that's not what happened, but we don't see that happen.
It wasn't very clear.
If they don't indicate that to the audience, it might as well not have happened.
Presume that it didn't happen.
Yeah, I agree with you. It was a strange, but I mean, it was dramatic. It was almost like it was on the level, like if they wanted to kill off a character, like that would have been. I mean, it was
would have been time to do it.
It would have been the time to do it. Yeah, right. That was a pretty dramatic scene. And so it's interesting about the different things people had a problem with about the singing scene. Jesse was caught up on the version. Patrick, you thought it should have been a different song, and I just wasn't like. I just didn't get much. I mean, I get why they did it, and I get it's like, okay, it's just dramatic scene where she's
it was dramatically impactful,
and all this shit's happening, and she's passing out and stuff. So like, let's have something else happening to sort of accompany this long sort of scene to draw it out and make it impactful, dramatic. But like for whatever reason, it just didn't really strike a chord with me.
Jesus fucking Christ.
On the nose Glaubitz.
Better than the in the nose Glaubitz.
They call him on the nose Glaubitz.
Up your nose
Epic
Glaubitz.
investigator.
Oh my God. Jesus. Fucking shit, man.
Hey, man, it's good to have skills.
Jesse's fault.
This is all Jesse's fault.
Okay, when it comes to computers singing, I think part of the other issue is when you compare them to other examples. One example being in 2010, the year we make contact, right? The sequel to 2001: A Space Odyssey. Well, there's two.
Right.
Well, okay.
It's got Roy Scheider.
Well, there's 2001: A Space Odyssey. Really, is more in 2001. You know, when they're pulling out the brains.
Pulling out the brains.
Hal's brains.
Yeah.
And Hal is singing Daisy, Daisy, and it's like getting slower, like Daisy. That is impactful because you're seeing the brain death of the computer. You're seeing a human murder the computer that was trying to murder him, but you're still sympathetic to the computer. It's wrapped up in all sorts of stuff. Okay. Another example, closer to home in the Star Trek universe, is when you see the Doctor on Voyager singing, "You Are My Sunshine" with 7 of 9. Mm-hmm. Now, if you're not recalling that, or if you haven't seen that episode yet, that's it's really touching when he's singing that. Now he sings other times too, and it works out. He's singing opera and other things, this fit the pattern of dramatically impactful, but it was lacking some stuff. I think we're too new to Zora. Maybe the context was a little odd, and perhaps the choice of song could have been better. But minor critique, minor nitpicking in the scheme of things.
We know about there's supposed to be all this crazy stuff in the sphere data because the sphere has been around the universe for a long fucking time, centuries and stuff. They don't ever seem to go to this sphere data to consult it.
They do refer to sometimes.
They referred to it.
Like there was once or twice when they referred to scan the computer database and sphere data, and now they seem to have just sort of conflated it and been like anytime they're doing. And then the further confusion is the sphere data that Discovery has only goes up to the 22nd century. So the sphere data doesn't have anything in the intervening 900 years.
And it's got a lot of human stuff, man.
Yeah, it does have a lot of human stuff.
It's really into human stuff.
But on the other hand, presumably, they have also downloaded all the Federation computer data from the night. So they have the Federation from the future computer data. They have the Federation data from the 22nd century.
Data.
And they have the sphere data. It's all squished together.
Yeah, I didn't really think about the fact that the sphere data did move into the future and it only goes up to a certain point.
Yeah.
That does sort of change the game a little bit.
There's a lot of that stuff where it's like the sphere data is awesome in some ways, but it is also missing. Like it's not current. It doesn't have all the sphere didn't know what all the current political alliances and all that were.
That's true.
Anything else, or shall we move along to odds and ends?
Well, so this episode with the Zora stuff, it was kind of when she started talking with Gray, and when Zora was basically seeing, when Zora's talking about all the background processes going on, and they're being pushed to the forefront and all that stuff, and then Gray was like, that sounds overwhelming, and Zora's like, yeah, or whatever. So it's basically saying that I guess she was like having anxiety and focusing on all these non-essential processes too much. Yeah. And so it felt like this episode was suggesting, and this is more of a philosophical assertion, and I think there's definitely, it's not an original statement, but it is kind of an interesting one to think about, I think, still.
Are you plagiarizing?
Yes.
You're plagiarizing and bringing it to this podcast?
No, I'm just saying it brings up the interesting idea of, are emotions the reason we make choices at all? And that's kind of what this episode would be saying, because if she didn't have these emotions, those background processes would run like normal. But because she's having all these emotions, she's going beyond what she was. Because computers are programmed to do something. So why would
they just do it?
Why they just do it? Why would
do this?
Why would Zora suddenly change her programming? It would be because she has emotions and it's causing. So If without emotions, nobody does anything unless they're told to do that thing by somebody else, basically, is the kind of like the implication with, because that's how computers work, right? Computers don't do anything.
But they still receive inputs.
That's what I'm saying. They receive.
You could argue that what they're trying to convey is that the emotions are a different form of mediating what to do with those inputs. And maybe it's when there's a sufficient number of inputs sort of organically, the emergent property is consciousness / emotion / these things that are they simplify things, right? So I imagine the emotion of fear, for example. Like fear is like, oh fuck, I'm scared. I gotta react in some way, is a shortcut versus analyzing all like there's a tiger in the bush and the leaves are rustling and it's dark and the wind is blowing from the east so the tiger can smell me. It's like all of that is supposed to be like that's still happening, but then like your conscious brain can't process all that shit, so it just receives a signal saying like fuck.
So you think that even when we're making a decision like let's say, oh, how do I want ham or turkey? And you decide to go with ham, or you like look at a person and decide to like, you're mad. And so you want to target someone. And so you just randomly pick a person from the room and target them with your emotions. You're saying that that's still based on input. That's not like a choice you made yourself. Because going back to once again the idea that computers don't make choices, everything a computer does is based upon input from a person or something else.
They do make choices, but the
they
choices
don't make. No, the choices originate from being told how to make those choices.
Yes, but you could argue that that's exactly what goes on in a human brain.
And that's
as
what
well,
I'm wondering.
Based off of evolution,
and that's
and
what
the evolutionary response is things like emotions.
That's what. Yes, yeah, and that's what I was wondering. Like, is that what you're basically saying?
And,
is what I was asking.
And I'm not asserting that is true, but I think that is a position that one could take that is relatively defensible. And more to the point being, like, so if you have to think about all these things, that takes longer, and then that gets you killed, right? And that it's contextual in that the more acute a situation is, the more you are going to be prompted to rely on your emotional response as opposed to the care. Like you talk about picking between, say, two different types of ham. Do you want the smoked prosciutto or do you want the honeyed ham? Right? These are two great options, right? And in a calm situation without much pressure going on, you may be able to truly carefully consider which option makes the most sense based off of whatever situation you're dealing with at that point. But if it's a more acute situation where there's tigers attacking you and you have to make this decision, then you're more likely to be like, oh fuck, I'll take the smoked prosciutto. I'll pick that. You'll go with whatever your subconscious is popping out and telling you to do.
Or like, if it doesn't matter how good you are at doing something, a supercomputer can do all this stuff, but anxiety is still going to affect your functionality.
Yeah.
Well, so you're basically saying is emotions are kind of a result of just excessive amounts of input, and so Zora's emotion really
it might be a simplification because there's other stuff going on, like
because if you're a computer and you're told to keep certain background processes at a certain level, the only reason you change that is because your instructions that you were fed are somehow like synergizing or feeding off each other. And so she's thinking about too many things. She's like, instead of being like, when this happens, she's thinking, oh, well, when this happens, but I'm also told to save these people, but I can't save these people if I do this. So in order to do that, I have to reconcile it by doing this. And she just gets an overload of input. And that can be
sufficiently complex.
And that could be sufficiently complex and that could be interpreted as emotion. And that same thing could maybe be applied to people, which would say that sentience doesn't exist at all.
But we can also talk about it going the other way, which is however Zora acquired emotions. If you have emotions, now you are adding there's an added complexity to the decision making, because now when the replicator on deck 5 is not working, because that is part of your job, right? Part of your responsibility is to keep everything working and notify people when it's not working and get it fixed. If you have an emotion about that, you will feel bad about not doing your job well. And when that gets multiplied a lot, that feeds into the anxiety, and that's that's the same thing from a different angle.
I think that's kind of what you're saying is kind of in conflict a little bit of what you said before.
No, I'm saying it's a different perspective. You can come at it from that angle as well.
Because if emotions are really just something that's a sufficiently complex amount of inputs, then emotions aren't this discrete thing where it's either you have emotions or don't have emotions.
My point is not that. Again, this is a big topic that none of us are qualified for. But I just in casual chatty chat talk, I wouldn't want to simplify it as much just to say like emotions are a result of inputs, because there's lots of things that have billions of inputs that don't have emotions as far as we know.
Right, and so that's the question of what do emotions do for us? I
do think that there is an evolutionary purpose to. Clearly, there's an evolutionary purpose to emotions. They have some benefit.
Do we have a soul, Patrick? Jesse, do we have a soul?
It depends what you mean. Probably, basically, no.
You know what I mean.
Basically, no, but kind of yes.
No, if you mean it like this, but yeah, fine if you mean it like that.
Right.
Yeah.
But I mean, you squish your brain.
It's
you're
either
dead.
I'm no or
I'm
fine.
sorry. If your brain gets all squished up to pieces,
that's it.
That's it.
There's no soul.
You're done. But
well, now Star Trek actually might support that. That's not necessarily true.
No. Star Trek is different. Star Trek is
you could say that that you're being is more than just
Star Trek is science fiction / fantasy.
Well,
It
yeah,
is not
yeah.
hard
I'm
sci-fi.
not. Yeah, no,
right?
it's definitely not hard sci-fi. But you could say there's some aspect of you that enters back into some sort of extra dimensional thing that we don't understand.
And we see that here with Book's conversation with his dad. We've seen it with the whole idea of the Trill mind being transferred into an android body with Gray, where they conveniently sort of left out some of the actual, But what we all need to remind ourselves about.
Do we need to do this?
Yes, some of us do, apparently, out there in the world, is that whether you like it or not, Star Trek is not and has never been not only not hard sci-fi, it is always story first. And so when it comes to breaking canon or breaking physics or whatever, it's story first. You come up with transporters because you don't have the special effects budget to land shuttles. That's why the transporter exists.
Yeah. I mean,
Right?
the Lower Decks even brought up like the whole thing with what's his fucking name? Rex?
Rex.
It's not Rex. It's Rex.
I am Rat Rex.
Rawhead Rex.
It's not.
What's the guy from
Bajorn
the Ninja
dude?
Leatherhead from the Ninja Turtles and the Rat King living in the sewers?
The Rat King is a thing where all the
Ractogino, the Klingon coffee.
Yeah, that's right.
Great King Rat.
No, what's that the Bajorn security guy? Is it Rax or Rex?
Shax.
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 See how I forget stuff so quickly. It's fucked up.
It's called
but
old age.
But yeah, really. But there was that whole episode,
where he goes to the black void and
and they're talking about like he basically died and
they
like
have
wandered
the,
some
they have
weird
the,
land.
They have the koala god thing.
yeah,
but
and then, yeah.
again, my point is that Star Trek is a storytelling device, and the putting people on a space station allowed Gene Roddenberry to have people of different races and genders mixing together in a way that would not have been possible telling the same stories. So I'm not against wanting it to make sense, and I do have a preference when things are internally consistent. But at the same time, it's always a storytelling. Like Q, come on. Q is a great storytelling device. Q as a hard sci-fi thing is silly, right? That's where you go for like The Expanse or something where it's hardish sci-fi where they push the boundaries a little bit, with some other, but the idea is it's meant to fit into a certain realistic
mind
world.
melds are essentially Vulcan wizardry,
Exactly.
But
all that Vulcan stuff is magic.
But people still like the idea though that, and I think it's true that Star Trek still does have its limits. It doesn't just like have people suddenly like conjuring fireballs and things like that.
But sometimes it does, like in the animated series when they go to the other universe.
But that's
where
because they
witches
were.
and-
But that's
witches and
because
wizards.
they were in a different universe with different rules.
Yeah, but that's my point. Yes, I agree. It's great when there's some.
But within
Mages-
our universe, you
Mages
can't.
too.
It's different. You can't do that in our universe unless it's like some kind of other thing.
I 100% agree that when they can write it in
There's
such a way,
some sense
that
of
there's-
rules going
that
on.
There's forget about rules. It's more about plausibility in the context. And every Star Trek series has examples, including Discovery, but going all the way back to TOS. Often they add something where it's just like, all right, I don't know where the fuck that came from. Guess what? When the Vulcan mind meld was first mentioned, they didn't know that was going to turn into like a culturally important concept, like for decades to come. That was just some bullshit because they're like, oh yeah, that's a neat new thing. We'll invent this mind meld thing, and
He's got pointy ears.
because we want to tell the
He
story.
can touch your brain.
Star Trek has been going on so long, however, that over the years you collect all these things, and some of them people like more, and some of them people like less, and you get all these debates and stuff. Debates are fine, but it's storytelling, and in this episode they're telling a tale of a crew in danger, working together, working through their problems in order to solve the bigger problem, and it's clunky in a few parts there, but they get there in the end.
We could totally have some extra dimensional gas in our brains that gets released when it gets stomped that like causes some aspect of us to not completely be erased.
We could totally have all sorts of things for which there are no evidence for and no plausible mechanisms for.
Well,
in reality, in Star Trek, sure, we can have that stuff.
I would
all
say
day.
no currently no evidence, no plausible mechanism. I don't know what that means, but I mean I know what those words mean, but I mean I don't know.
You do know
that's
what
an
it means.
open-ended sort
What it
of like
means is,
non-statement.
if you are going to posit a theory, it should even if it's an out there theory.
No, I'm not going to base my day-to-day life on that idea.
I know you aren't. I know you aren't. I'm
is not a life-governing
suggesting
philosophy.
that would be the difference between a story like Star Trek, where we want to be allowed to do certain things because it's important in order to tell a humanistic tale.
Humanistic.
Right? That's one thing. Now, if you were trying to write a sci-fi story and just said like, oh yeah, people have interdimensional gas in their brain, yeah, you can give it a try, but it automatically it's like, okay, but where's it
Some
coming from?
interdimensional gas just came out of my butt.
Look,
I mean, I kind of like the idea, but in real life,
basically, there's no evidence for it. It doesn't change how I live my life, but it's kind of like being like, well, what if, what if anything?
Yeah, exactly. What if there's a God? What if you can literally make up anything? That's true, and that's fine. But positive claims require positive evidence, right? That's as simple as that. If you're going to take it seriously, it's just there's a lot of things we have to worry about in the world. So like if we kind of constrain ourselves to things that we're like pretty sure
I think it's just
that's helpful.
I think the problem comes though when that gets conflated with like the issues and the problems of organized religion, because organized religion, when it just done a bunch of terrible shit.
Yeah.
Now it doesn't mean all organized religion.
No, there's some good shit too.
There's some good shit too. But I'm just saying, just because people have decided to pervert this idea doesn't mean that we have to think that to erase like any concept behind it.
Any problems with organized religion are the same as any problems with other human activities. Because it deals in a certain arena, which involves all-powerful beings in some cases, or life after death, or other things, it's treated slightly differently. But there are similar issues with other forms of human organization, other forms of human just interaction that are... Many of the problems, the argument would be made that many of the problems with religion are not with religion, it's with humans.
Right, exactly.
With humans, right?
Precisely.
Yeah. And again, Star Trek offers often really great venues for storytelling, drawing on the mythos from real cultures and things like that, and telling some good tales. Wow, that really got off the rails, but it was pretty good.
I guess we can...
Any odds and ends before we wrap things up?
Back to the Zora's emotions. The thing about emotions is like, what if this happened on just a different day? Maybe Zora would have dealt with it differently. She would have been like, "Oh well, today I'm feeling like this.
Yeah,
so I'm not going to have this same kind of anxiety."
Does Zora wake up?
I'm having an on day,
Yeah, does she wake up like some mornings and Burnham's like, "Zora, you're cross today,"
Yeah.
Did she wake up on the wrong side of
Right.
the wrong side of the chip or whatever?
Precisely,
Or maybe
yeah.
if the replicator like just was in good shape, like it just wouldn't have aggravated. It wouldn't have sent her on this fucking
It's like
spiral.
the
that
replicator's
day.
Yeah, she
going.
spiraled. That's the problem. She can't manage her emotions, so the replicator gets fucked up and she spirals.
Yeah,
Just
there's
blasting Sundays.
Like a couple things go wrong. You get up and you're like you forgot to wash your socks or something. There's a couple things, but then it's when it's like when your car runs out of gas. That's what fucking It's just like, God damn it.
Some people, it's if they spill their quinoa all over the floor.
Probably shouldn't eat quinoa.
Quinoa.
I thought it was speaking of a happy Stamets, he was like, when he was explaining the particles in Book's brain, he was all like, these particles in Book's brain?
Yeah, I know.
Are the DNA clue you've been looking for.
He was about to explode. He was so happy.
Yeah. It was cool.
He was
it was
about to
fun.
explode.
These particles in Book's brain?
I really love Stamets.
Yeah, it was great. It was awesome. I was into it in a big way.
Anthony Rapp's fantastic.
Yeah,
and
dude.
If you haven't seen him, go check out some of the other stuff he's done. Even Rent. I know I'm not a big fan of Rent, but he's really good in it.
He's good at it.
Yeah.
He's really good at it.
In it, I said.
Oh, I thought you said he's good at it. I was like, okay.
He's good at Rent.
Yes.
At renting.
Yeah.
Yes. Other odds and ends.
Something's wrong with Linus, and we don't know what.
Yeah, the whole heat lamp thing.
Yeah, it's just another sort of joke on Linus.
He's like sick again.
Yeah,
He keeps getting sick.
they keep
Linus.
joking on Linus.
It's probably all the mammal germs.
They're playing this as Linus was introduced as a comedic element.
Yeah.
Right.
And they've generally played him as a comedic element, similar to Morn, right? He's always around. We see him getting mad at playing cards and stuff in that
Doesn't say much. Sneezes on people.
Even when he's not around, he's referenced again, like Morn on Deep Space Nine.
People generally like him.
So they've got this running gag, and I really hope because you could almost see them. The running gag is like at the end of the season is like he has terrible lizard cancer or something.
Linus died.
Oh yeah,
Because Morn died, right?
No, more. There's an episode where you think he might be dead.
They thought. Okay.
But he faked his death.
Yeah, so Linus, I wonder if there's, it seems like there's something horrible going on with him. It's like a weird.
Now this feels.
It's a
This
perverted.
feels like Dan's about to make a joke.
No, I know there's no joke. There's no
sure?
joke. I was just trying to
You
sort of.
had that look in
You
your
had
eye.
that. His eyes were darting.
No,
back and
I was
forth.
trying to think of a way to word what I was saying,
He's
which
like,
is.
this guy Linus.
lips were
it's
curling back.
a little too bad about this guy Linus.
No, I was just saying it's sort of a.
You know, guys.
It's a perversion of the
have you heard
joke.
of this? Have you seen this? Have you heard of this?
I was just saying that they were continuing the joke, but they've sort of twisted it into something dark, which is, as you said, Linus cancer or whatever.
Yeah, he's got cancer on his Linus.
Does seal bite your Linus?
I'll tell you what's a bummer though. That Ensign Cortez. No, am I right?
Oh shit!
Ensign Cortez.
I know that was a bummer.
That was a bummer.
Yeah, Zora was questioning herself on that.
A hull breach is a fucked up thing.
I know.
They were like,
Yeah.
"It's a hull breach. Get the fuck out of here."
Dude,
He's
dude
like,
got
"I gotta
sucked
fix
out.
it."
Holy shit!
I heard
That's
you don't.
awesome, but
I heard you
yeah.
don't really get sucked out like that in space.
I don't know.
You kind of float.
I would
Yeah.
imagine you would, depending on the aperture of the opening, right? Because the air inside will,
Right.
It's like
will
when
get
you-
sucked
when you
out to
pinch a
equalize the
hose.
pressure.
This is true.
So the narrower the opening, in theory, that might accelerate.
Oh, there's a
the,
horrible scene in one of the last Aliens movie.
where they get sucked through a little hole.
Yeah, and I don't think that
You don't
really
mean
happened.
that's an Alien Resurrection or something? It's Alien 4, isn't it?
Yeah, it's disturbing.
I guess technically is the. I mean, yeah, I guess it's the.
Anyways,
last
it's really fucking disturbing, but like that probably wouldn't happen. That probably totally wouldn't happen to that weird
Well, no,
crazy
if it's,
alien.
if it's like a super small hole, I think you can just put your finger.
That's
in
what
it.
I mean. Like, yeah, then that.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't know how it works.
Odds and ends.
The average Quajon has a cortical dream center that fires 400 times per second in active state, and his was 10 times the amount. How do we even know what the average is for humans? We don't know.
we
How do you
don't
even
know.
how do you even look that up?
It's
How do you
super-
Google
that's
that?
super science.
How do you Google that?
You just don't know.
There's no way to ask that question.
You Google that shit and Memory Alpha comes up.
You go to No, even Memory Alpha doesn't know how much a humans does. That's a question for Reddit. I think Reddit should
Or
be
Memory
asked.
Alpha in 2 weeks.
In 2
In 2
weeks. You think
weeks,
somebody's going to
yeah.
make that connection? Be like, I wonder how much humans do, and how many do Klingons do? Like, why are we supposed to care about 400 times per second?
At the very least,
All they did-
somebody will try to figure it out, and if they can't, they'll put like a footnote or something saying like, "There's no way to compare this to
Yeah.
human." blah, blah, blah.
I think the only reason they brought it up is because in relation to 10 times the amount, they were just trying to say it was 10 times the amount it normally is, but they could have just said 10 times the amount.
10 times.
It's not very scientific.
There was an appropriate use of "that's an order." It's not even worth mentioning, but it was.
But you did.
But I did, just to show you that I'm still watching, and in case anyone's like he missed that one.
You missed that one.
It was with Saru and Oikash. God damn it. Wasakin.
Oh, who has now returned to the show after several episodes of
Yeah.
Noah
And
Wasakan or Detmer.
Detmer. And they were all just like jamming out, working out. In the
They were
gym.
in their workout clothes and they flashed into their uniforms.
Yeah, they were working
And some
out.
other people and it was all like this. Everybody like triumphantly came to the bridge. That was
doing it. I like the instant transporter action, which we've seen a lot so
yeah.
far this season. But
Yeah, I really noticed it when Gray
very
suddenly
convenient.
appeared on the bridge at the end, and I was like, "Whoa, there's Gray."
yeah.
pretty awesome. All right, any final odds and ends?
I guess it was just I thought I wasn't sure how I felt about the delivery of the lines when people were coming up with ideas, and Burnham was like, "Good, that's good. Yeah, more. Yeah, that's a great idea."
More of that.
It was fine though.
She didn't. She had nothing. She had
She's
nothing.
like, "Good."
She had
It's
no
just-
ideas.
It just sounded. She sounded like she was a teacher, and she was
Yeah.
telling the students they had good ideas or
know,
something.
Yeah. I mean, what else are you gonna say?
I don't know.
Teachers.
If it was Picard, he'd just be like, "Good.
Good.
Make it so.
Earl Grey. Good.
Earl Grey. Good.
That's not even funny. Man.
That's pretty funny. Earl Grey. Good. That's pretty funny.
Don't give me the weak Earl Grey.
All right, so I think that sums it up for this week. Next week, of course, we will continue our coverage. As it turns out, Discovery is going to go on a brief hiatus after next week.
Yeah.
So we'll
Weird.
fill.
What do we feel about that? I
It's
don't know.
weird.
We'll fill the time. It's not. They've done it before.
Is there a rift in the universe?
But they're doing that not warn us thing again.
Yeah, the people are getting aggravated because probably during the hiatus they'll probably finish up Star Trek Prodigy, and then they'll finish up the rest of the Discovery episodes, and then they'll go to Picard. And To me, it's not such a big deal. It's like whatever. It's actually mildly convenient because there's a few days where it might be I might have some scheduling conflicts with regard to recording like immediately after the episode airs. But yeah, so next week's episode of Discovery will be the last for
Owasakun.
a few weeks before it comes back. I think it's coming back in February.
I think someone said Owashakun and what the
Owashakun,
episode.
yeah.
There's
the
been some
episode.
variation in how
Different
they say it.
pronunciation.
Because Saru says it one way and
Yeah.
Burnham says it another way, and then sometimes they just call her "Oh whoa."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh well. So next week we don't know the name of the episode yet, of course, but it'll be episode 7 of Discovery.
Episode badass.
No doubt we'll see some more interesting stuff. Season's been going well so far. Hopefully they'll keep it up.
Space is the place.
In the meantime, if you're interested
In the
if
meantime.
you're interested in getting in contact with us,
In the meantime.
you can do so.
In the meantime.
On social media at itsgotstartrek.com. No,
It's the meantime.
It's got Star Trek
Came all the way
at
back
symbol.
to time.
It's got Star Trek. That's on Twitter and Instagram, etc. You can find us on Facebook and YouTube.
It's on Facebook.
and
It's now called the metaverse.
www.thisgotstartrek.com for old school web style action.
Old school web
and
style
for example,
action.
you can go through and you can organize all the podcasts by series, by specific series or topic. It's very nicely organized. So if you just want to listen to some of our TNG podcasts, have at it. Click on the TNG thing.
That's all you got to do.
All the episodes we've covered, all the TNG episodes we covered will be right there. So that's what you should do there.
Maybe you like Voyager.
Maybe I'm amazed.
You can watch just listen to the Voyager episodes.
Yeah, or the go-to one should be the animated series.
What kind
Go
of-
listen to those episodes are great episodes.
Yeah.
What
the
kind
podcast.
of what kind of a maze amazes an amazester? What kind of a maze amazes a maester?
Amazing maze.
Amazing maze.
A mazy maze, a daisy maze, Maisie days, Maisie. Who's that Maisie actor?
Maisie Williams.
Yeah, Maisie Williams. Never mind.
All right.
Maisie Williams.
So,
Maisie Williams.
we'll
That's
talk
the
to
answer.
you. We'll talk to you next week, but we'll go out. How about we
Daisy
go out
Riddle.
on the end credit music to Star Trek, and we can jauntily listen along as we as we hear the last of the Mohicans. Unless
do it.
I'm much mistaken, you write in and let us know. Write in on Twitter and let us know if we've got this last of the Mohican things right, or what else this might be reminding me of. Otherwise, we'll talk to you next week. They can still hear us. Isn't that cool? We're playing music.
Are we gonna get sued?
No. I don't think we get sued. They don't have this out on an album yet. Boom, 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 boom. See, this part's normal.
This part's totally norms.
This part's totally normal.
That flute kicks in though and starts to.
And the violins, violas, cellos. It's just like
It's the progression of like some kind of dire.
running through the woods
Some
of North
dire-
Carolina.
I think of like some elves running away from
Yes.
from the people trying to kill the elves.
They're trying to kill
trees
us.
or something. That's like
They're killing all the
it's
trees.
like the humans are killing the elf trees.
It's like Fern Gully.
Yeah, with elves, not fairies. With ending on a Picardy third.
Yeah, I fucking shit. Fucking Picardy third, man. God damn it.
Good night, folks.
Have you tried resetting your routing system? Maybe that'd help.
It didn't. Oxygen levels on mess hall deck 5 are nominal.
Was that a joke?
If it was funny, then yes.